Hello and welcome to a special Friday night edition of the CFB Super Show. I am your host, Walter Waddell, aka Deuce 85, joined as always by the man, the myth, the legend, Pete Cole. We are going to be breaking down the Saturday slate, the main slate 13 gamer on DraftKings. A lot to talk about, so we're going to really just try to keep it to highlighting our favorite plays from each game so we can move along and give you guys prize picks at the end. We do have a special promotion going on still on the Your Fielder's Choice site. First 2 months are 50% off, so $25 a month for those first 2 months get you access to every sport we cover, including cheat sheets, premium members only Discord shows, and much, much more. Back massage from Pete sometimes. So we're feeling pretty good about that promotion going on. Lots of shows. God, we've been on the air every single night this week, and we love it. We're just grinding away here. I will be back tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7 a.m. my time, going through any last minute news, injuries. If my thoughts have changed overnight, sometimes that happens. So make sure you guys are back right here, same channel at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern for that. Otherwise, we're going to jump in here in a moment. But Pete, how are you feeling? Lots of stuff and a lot of slates ahead, showdowns. 3 or 4 classic slates. There's a lot to play. You got to be careful not to have the fear of missing out that people talk about and try to play too much, but definitely want to get some action in here. How are you feeling about things?
Yeah, that's a good point too, because a week ago we were craving college football, and now it's like 3 nights into it. I'm already feeling burned out from this researching and writing, and but this is good. This is good stuff. Best time of the year, but definitely a good point because you could. Especially new people, you could ruin your bankroll real quick. I mean, we had the showdown Wednesday night, which you did well in, but Thursday night we had classic. Tonight we had classic. Tomorrow 3 slates. So yeah, you can lose your bankroll quick. So you got to be smart, especially at the beginning of the season, because we've already seen that some players aren't playing like we thought they would, and some depth chart questions and coach speak and all that. So just be careful the first couple of weeks until we really know what's going on, but have fun. And there's edge, there's money to be made. Just listen to us.
Yeah. And there's, like we said, football all weekend. Not only was there the CFL stuff on Sunday, Monday, but also Notre Dame. And I believe FSU plays on Sunday. So there's some college football on Sunday as well. So there is a slate literally every single day. So enjoy your Labor Day weekend. We'll be around here doing shows for you guys. If you're watching live, thank you. We appreciate it. Hit that like button underneath us. Really helps us within the YouTube algo get seen. The more we get our content out there, the better it is. And then also, if you have a question there to the right in the live chat or concerns, comments, you just want to talk, hang out, feel free to put this up there, or if it's a question, we'll make sure we answer those throughout the show. First game we want to talk about on the slate here, Stanford versus Kansas State. I have -3 as of earlier today. That could change for Kansas State. 53 over under. And there's a few things I like here. So I'm not going to dominate the entire game here, not leave you with anything to talk about, but I did want to talk about on the Kansas State side, quarterback Skylar Thompson, who I have written up here at 6'6". He's been a really solid, reliable, cheapy quarterback for us for the last 2 years. I know last year he got hurt, which knocked him out, but the year before that we used him a lot too. And he's been a solid guy, like really an 8K type of performer, if not better. And he's always under 7K. So now he's back in the mix. He's healthy, kind of a sneaky dual threat guy. Rushed for over 1,000 yards in his career, thrown for over 5,000 yards in his career. So he's got a star behind him in Deuce Vaughn, who I'm very excited about. So assuming the Skyler doesn't have too much rust, and he's truly is 100% healthy, there's a chance to have a pretty good game here against a Stanford team, a Stanford team that was pretty bad against the run last year. And Skylar Thompson, we know he can run, so he can do some things, and that leads into Deuce Vaughn as well, who's only 6'3". I mean, you got the starting QB, starting running back for less than, $14K in salary. I'm a big Deuce Vaughn guy. You liked him a lot last year. He's pretty much a star in the making. Rushed for almost 700 yards last year. Also contributed 434 receiving yards, which is big time. 9 total touchdowns. So that was in kind of that weird shortened COVID season. So he could have a huge number this year in terms of touchdown. As I mentioned, Stanford, they were giving up over 220 rushing yards per game last year. So Deuce could really be licking his chops for this one. The only thing for me that's a little concerning, looking at his stature, he's only 5'9", 173. He's really fast, and he didn't get hit a lot. He's breaking these big plays and taking it 60 yards to the house. So I don't know how much punishment he can take if he's an every down type back. There may be some, working in some other guys. Maybe he's not the true definition of a bell cow. He's kind of like Rashad White, though. The high YPC, going to get a lot of touches. He averaged 15 and a half touches last year per game. Coaching staff says they want to have him somewhere between 23 and 25. I was pretty excited to read that. So he's going to be doing a lot of good things, in the course of this 10 to 12 game season. Could be looking at a 1,200 rushing, 800 receiving, 15-ton, 20 touchdown type of guy. So 6'3" is a price that he's not going to be for too long. And then just on the Stanford side, you could look at their running back, Austin Jones at 7'2", who's a true bell cow in every sense of the word. 9 touchdowns last year in only 6 games. He had two touchdowns in 4 of those 6 games. He accounted for 60% of the team's rushing touchdowns, 69% of the team's rushing yards, and 40% of the team's total touchdowns. So his equity in the touchdown area is very, very high for Austin Jones. So I don't mind running. It's not very, I guess usual to run 2 running backs from opposite teams in the same lineup against each other. But I think it could work here today, especially in some of your GPP lineups because of how high upside, high floor those players have. So I have a lot of interest in those guys and some in Skyler. The receivers, not a ton for me, but maybe you can unearth some for us or reiterate that Deuce Vaughn is your guy because I know you were on him pretty much before everyone last year. But what's your plan of attack for this first game?
Yeah, I saw Deuce Vaughn. Man, I thought I was going to see lower projected ownership on him right now, and I'm not. I'm seeing like around 30s. But to me, Deuce is a cash play, 110% cash play. And you did. I saw the same thing where Chris Kleiman said that 25 might be an optimum number for him, and of course there is those concerns about he's not a big guy, and how can 5'6" can he absorb? How much can he absorb over 12 game season? But we don't have to worry about that, right? We just got to worry about tomorrow. And I think he's a awesome play. It'd be 25 catches last year rushing, so he does it all. So he's a cash play and GPP viable. And I think Skylar Thompson is the same thing. I think Skylar Thompson could be a cash play, and I'm looking at him over 20% projected ownership now too. So I think both of them. And as soon as you seen what happened, as soon as he had that shoulder injury last year against Texas Tech, and then pretty much it all went to shit. And that was right after that game and at Norman when he had that huge game against Oklahoma, and he put up like 40 DraftKings points. So we should be seeing that Skylar Thompson this year, 1 year older, one more experienced. Remember the Stanford defense was not good, so they were pretty much MIA last year. So maybe a little bit better this year, but Thompson's gonna hit value at 6'6". I think 6'6" is a really good price. 6'6" and 3'3". 6'3", 2 good price on those guys. So they're on the receivers. I'm not interested in any receivers here. Maybe Malik Knowles at the most, but I'm not paying 5'3" for even Malik Knowles. And Austin Jones on the other side. I'm not a huge Jones guy, but he is a workhorse, and he has produced the numbers, right? So he's 85 yards or more in 5 of his 6 games. He had that big game against Washington. Your guys had 138 yards. So I guess especially you could definitely make a GPP lineup with all 3 of these guys. But definitely to me, it's Thompson and Mr. Darren, little Darren Sproles light could be in my main lineup, definitely.
Nice thing about being a 13 game slate is the ownership is going to be spread out. We just had this 8 gamer, I guess it was a 7 gamer because of the Temple game getting PPG where Barrier was like 75% owned, some stupid. So even though we really like, I'm glad to hear that you are high on Skylar Thompson too. You see him rolling in there around low 20% ownership, which is still fine on a 13 gamer because he could end up being a little bit less. Looking at Ritter, who we're going to talk about it, in the mid-teens. So there's some really good plays here that are going to be spread out. Even if the regulars, the sharks, the grinders all play the same kind of core group, still will be enough casuals playing to really negate that. So yeah, Thompson, he's a really cheap. I think there's enough value to play 2 upper tier quarterbacks. I'm kind of messing with that build because I love going cheap at receiver. So we'll have to see how the rest of it goes. But yeah, it's nice to have the ownership at least hopefully be spread out, at least initially. Tulane versus Oklahoma. I have Oklahoma minus 31.5, almost 70 over and under. I initially thought right away that people would be all over, Spencer Rattler. They were last year. He's 9-7 though. I know he does project as one of the higher owned quarterbacks. For me, I have a real tight group. I did write Rattler up as a play, of course, but I don't know that I'm really going to be going there for a main. To me, he was more of a GPP guy at almost 10K. And the reason is, you know, he's a trendy pick, I know, for Heisman and all that, but this is going to be definitely a blowout. Tulane's going to struggle here. 32-point favorite. He's going to put up points, and he could very well be like, 2.5, 3/4 could be enough for him to put up 40. He threw over sort of 3,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. He did have 6 rushing touchdowns. So there's a lot of weapons around him. It's changed a little bit. The running back group is different. He does have familiarity at the wide receiver, which I harp on when you have that rapport with your receivers. I like Oklahoma stacks for GPP. The reason I'm not big on Oklahoma stacks for regular cash or even playing a guy like Marvin Mims, who I know can pay off, is the touchdown is a little bit, it was very random with this group. It was last year, and it's going to be random, and it's going to be, guys that you'll think it's Weeks 1 week, and then Mims, and then someone else. So I'm just going to be very careful with Oklahoma, and if the ownership is going to trend that way, that's only going to solidify my thought of going cheaper at the receiver position and kind of staying away from Rattler. It definitely hurt me, but 9-7 is just a ton to pay for a guy who may not see a full amount of time and isn't traditionally going to rack up the dual threat yardage. Although when he gets in the red zone, he will call his own number for a red zone touchdown. So what do you think about Rattler right now trending as one of the higher owned players in your lineup?
I know he is too. And there's so much offensive talent here. I just think getting to 9-7 is going to be hard. And of course, he's a good play. I mean, he could be the number one overall pick next year. And Tulane's defense was terrible last year, and especially in passing yards, 278 passing yards per game, 8.5. 8.5 and 278.7. So, I mean, of course, but we got the blowout factor here. So, I think there's way too much other talent where we don't have to worry about the blowout factor. He's probably still safe, and he's got the weapons there. But to me, I think he's a hard fade also, especially that price. And same with all those guys. I think these are mostly all GPP plays. I really like Marvin Mims. The problem with Mims is how many times did we see him last year? He would disappear. I mean, he had one good game and then he would disappear. I think he had 2 games over 100 yards, but then there's other games we didn't see him do shit. But I really do think this is going to be his year. But GPP play because of his price. And the one guy I'm trying to we got Jordan Hazelwood at 4-5. I'm not sure if you wrote him up, but I think Hazelwood at 4-5. I think this is a talented kid, hurt last year, but I think he's going to absorb the Theo Weiss role. And this kid came out of high school. I think he's one of the top ranked receivers in the country when he came out. So I think he's going to take a much larger workload this year, definitely with Weiss out. So I like Hazelwood if anybody at 4-5. Michael Woods.
Seems like we've been waiting for him to blow for a couple years now, and this could finally be right for him. Yeah.
I mean, and I think this is a pay down on wide receivers late. So I don't think we're going to be able to pay up for guys like Mims. Of course, GPP plays, and you don't play Mims and Rattler in a GPP lineup, but we're not going to be able to pay 7-7 for Mims, and maybe not even Michael Woods at 5-4 is kind of borderline. So I think this is Marvin Mims' year. As the year goes on, I mean, he's the clear cut WR1. He probably will have a monster year, but I think Hazelwood I think it's a nice sort of price here at 4 or 5. Is he got my main lineup? Not sure, but he may be. I mean, the points are coming from somewhere. The 67.5 over under the 31-point favorites. So
yeah, it's definitely a pay down at receiver spot for me. That's the way I'm looking at it. It sounds like that's going to be kind of the trendier move. Running back for Oklahoma, Gray and Brooks are co-starters. I'm not going to mess around with it. There's a very good chance one of those guys could rush for 2 or 3 touchdowns, and everybody will be like, "Oh, why didn't I play him? Why didn't I play him?" Because that's what every time Oklahoma's on a slate, and they have a guy go nuts, everybody always bitches about not playing him. But guess what? If you play him, it's a good chance he's not going to score a touchdown at all because all these guys are very high variance with their touchdowns. The equity is just not there on a consistent basis. So don't beat yourself up tomorrow if Eric Gray goes for, 130 and 2 touchdowns or, something stupid, because the very next week it's going to be Brooks. So I just want to let people know that, because I know Oklahoma's a team that everybody gets all, they see the glitz and glamour of them for DFS, and everybody, I got to get Oklahoma exposure. And it's tough. They're going to score points. It's very hard to predict where those points come from.
Definitely.
And yeah, Tulane's no thank you. Slate's too big to really screw around with Tulane. Speaking of which, that Tulane made me realize, did you know that UC Davis beat Tulsa yesterday? It's going to be a rough year for Tulsa. That's a pretty bad loss. Yikes.
That's horrible.
So yeah, it was like 19-17. It's going to be a tough year for them. All right, so next game, Western Michigan versus Michigan. And Michigan minus 17 here, over under of 67, lots of points. It's going to be a much better Michigan team. I like Western Michigan, the Maction. We use them a lot. Sky Moore was our guy. He paid the bills for us a little bit. So I'm a big Sky Moore guy. It's 5'9", though. It's going to be tough to really justify using him against this Michigan, defense that is supposed to be much better. So I think for GPPs, run him out there. He only played the 5 games last year. 36 targets, caught 25 passes for 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. Year before that, he was an 800-yard guy. So, it wouldn't surprise me to see him have a good game, but it's just really risky to use him, in this game against Michigan on the road. And then as far as Michigan, tell us about Michigan. Is there, who are the names to know for them this year? Because they're going to look a little different than what we just saw.
Yeah, they are. And of course, it's another Harborough year. And first of all, I'm not a Kate McNamara guy. I'm not going to pay A1 for McNamara. I think this total is a little high, 66.5. But Western Michigan, I mean, I think they have a really good offense. I think they're a good team, but they do have a bad defense. I think Ronnie Bell at 7K is a nice price, especially when you have an implied total like 40 points. So it puts Bell in play. GPP probably only. I mean, then Hassan Hawkins, I don't mind him at 6'2", because he's the guy now, right? I mean, there's no Fontenot anymore. So, and we did see Haskins really explosive last year in limited action. But I think Haskins is probably the one guy I'm most excited about seeing. I just can't get my finger on Ronnie Bell yet, and then maybe it's because of McNamara. But if anybody from that team is Haskins, to me, there's not much DFS here on the Michigan side. And like I said, I like Sky Moore, and I think you're right. I still think 5'9" is a little bit high. He did average 19 fantasy points a game last year, but I think I agree with you. I think it may be a little bit high for Sky Moore. 5'9". There's times that we thought Sky Moore was going to take over a whole lineup, and he put a dud out. But Jalen Hall, kind of a boomer bust guy. Jalen Hall, I said he had 12 catches last year, and 7 of them are touchdowns. So he's kind of your big play GPP receiver. But there's nobody in this game I'm going to be having in the cash lineup or GPP. I mean, if anything, if I'm multi-entering, like I said, maybe a little Hawkins, maybe a little Haskins. I mean, maybe a little Ronnie Bell or Sky Moore, but I'm not really into this game at all. I just think it's a weird. I think it's a weird total. I think that total's a little high.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because as I'm looking through, totals on here to see where ownership might go. Yeah, it's up there with the Oklahoma game, and I'm just like, well, yeah, if this was like a Western Michigan versus another MAC team, or maybe a team like your Hurricanes or Maryland, like I could justify that, but I just not ready to believe that this is a totally new and improved Michigan squad just yet. So we'll see. But I was worried because I don't really have anyone from that game. Maybe a little Sky Moore, as I mentioned, just because. But I just don't want to be caught with my pants down, not having a lot of ownership. But at the same time, if ownership's going to be heavy on that game, I think I might feel good about it, because I think it might be a little less glamorous than people think. All right, let's move to the next game here. We've got an in-conference bout between Penn State, Wisconsin, minus 5.5 for Wisconsin, over under of 50. We got a couple Wisconsin fans in our Discord. There's a lot to possibly use here on a GPP standpoint. It's not as if this game is going to turn into some kind of shootout, although maybe it will. Kind of feel like it'll be a little rough and rugged. It is exciting to see Chaz Maluzzi, the Clemson transfer. He's 5K for Wisconsin. He's taken a hold of that RB1 slot. I mean, Jalen Berger's obviously going to get touches as well. But Chaz had a nice 6 YPC playing behind Travis Etienne at Clemson, 427 and 6 touchdowns in his career. He has the ability. He hasn't taken more than 8 carries in a collegiate game, though. So that's where I'm saying I don't believe he's just going to come in there and they're going to feed him the rock 20 times. But Jalen Berger is looming. The receivers are certainly intriguing here for Wisconsin. Again, though, I feel like it's a little bit of a guessing game between, Danny Davis or Pryor, Jack Ferguson. These are names who I'm interested in, especially, a guy like Kendrick Pryor. I've even heard, I got a buddy who is from the Wisconsin area, Chimeri DK. He said he's going to be a breakout type of player. So I do have my eyes on some of these guys, but at the same time, I'm not confident enough to sit here and say, yeah, I'm going to go with Pryor. And you guys that watch us, me and Pete, when we get a feeling or a research and on these 3-8, 4-1 guys, if we're on them, we're not going to take this, waffling stance. We will say we're playing this guy without a shadow of doubt, where I will have exposure. So when I'm telling you, I look at this list and I don't have anyone that I am super confident about, that lets I'm not just trying to, not take a stand on somebody, but I want you guys to know that when I take a stand, it actually means something, right? For me and Pete, when we take a stand, it means something. So that's why I don't want to lead you guys down this road and be like, yeah, GK, let's play him and just, have it not work out. So just wanted to throw that out there about not taking a stand on a couple of these games. We're going to get to some games where I'm really like, yep, here we go. This is not one of them. So Penn State side, they have weapons that I really like, but I guess I'm a little fearful about using them against Wisconsin. Dotson is the guy I loved using last year. I do like that price for Parker Washington at 5K. The running back situation is nice and healthy. They've got some weapons with Noah Kane, John Lovett, Key Lee, but that's not a spot I really want to target. They've priced everyone in this bucket pricing to really, I don't want to say lower edge, but when you have running back, guys that are all like 5'4", 5'2", 5'3", and they're all the same kind of running back, it almost makes it like it's not a big difference which one you take. So I don't have a lot of love for this game, Pete. What do you think?
No, I agree, and I just think that this may be a better game than we could watch. This game is definitely not set for Penn State for DFS purposes. I mean, Wisconsin's got a really good. We all know about Wisconsin's defense. I do think Sean Clifford's gonna have a good year this year. I'm kind of a Clifford guy, but not tomorrow. Running backs, there's too many running backs on that Penn State side. I mean, they got a decent running back room. I mean, now with Lovett there and Noah Kane, but I just think there's too many guys, and same with the receivers. I think Dotson is gonna at some point be one of the next great Penn State receivers. I think Parker Washington. We saw Washington last year have a really good end to the season. He's probably actually Parker Washington at 5K is probably the only piece I would play tomorrow for Penn State at 5K. Not a bad. Probably the better price point per dollar than anybody else on that team. So probably, but not even Washington, but he's probably the one play I think is maybe playable. And on the other side, I totally agree with you. I don't think any of these Wisconsin guys are playable. Chez Malusi, is that how you say it, Malucci? But
yeah,
Malucci?
I think so.
But he's a shiny new toy. I think he's what are we seeing for him? Ownership, I'm looking at like 5%, which is probably going to go up. Remember I think Jalen Berger had a solid season last year as a freshman, and there's no way is he just going to sit tomorrow. He's going to touch the ball. So the one thing though is this Wisconsin offensive line is really good, and if Malucci is really going to be taking the bulk of the carries, is the real RB1. 5K is probably $1,500 cheaper than it should be. So he probably does come in as a value play, but I don't think he's going to be touching the ball 20 times. And I'm not interested in guys like Danny Davis receivers. I'm definitely not interested in Graham Mertz. So yeah, so this is a better game, Big Ten game like to watch, but DFS not really unless you want to play the kid running back and and see if he catch, which is a really good price. If he's going to get that many carries, it's a good price. But I'm probably going to go elsewhere.
It would just be really shocking. I mean, like I said, he's never taken more than 8 carries in a game, and they're
Yeah,
not
then he's at
just
20
gonna
tomorrow.
not play Burger. So, yeah. All right, next game here, Oregon versus Fresno State. We have Oregon minus 20.5. I'd like to think Fresno State can keep up there, but their defense against upper tier competition has suffered in the past. It is a 64 over under. We just saw Fresno State in a very non-competitive game here recently, and it's going to be much tougher. That's why we were joking about getting the prices for these guys now last week, but because I mean, if Ronnie Rivers was against an opponent that had a lesser defense at 6'7", we would be locking them in. But going up against that Oregon defense, as a Husky fan, I despise Oregon in every sport. I'd watch rowing and I'd root against them if that was the case. But so it pains me to admit this, but they do have an elite defense. I'm not sold on their offense. A lot of people think they're going to be a really good offense for whatever reason. I am not one of those people that thinks that, but I will give them respect. Their defense is going to keep them in a lot of games, and their offense will be good enough to win games for them. It's not going to carry them. If their defense has an off night, they'll be losing. I'm really confident in that. The receiving group is really solid. I don't know that somebody's going to step out and really claim it. Jalen Redd had the targets lead last year with 40, and you had Devin Williams with 24, Johnny Johnson with 28, DJ Johnson with 15. So very spread out. Pittman, a lot of I like Pittman. You like Pittman. We've used him in the past, but you really can't trust them. And I'm damn sure not going to trust using Anthony Brown at what is it, 8-3. I know Fresno State's a decent matchup for an adequate player, and he's got some rushing upside there. But Brown is really not the guy. It wouldn't surprise me to see him possibly lose a job later on. I'm just not that confident in him. Gladly eat my words if he comes out and becomes Pac-12 Player of the Year or something, but I just don't see it. If anything, you want to use Oregon in this slate here. CJ Verdell at 6K and Travis Dye at 5.5. Those are both very solid prices. They're going to get a nice bulk of the carries. You'll see Dye get 11 to 15. You'll see Verdell settle in somewhere between 13 to 15 as well, maybe a little more. I tend to think Verdell may get the carry lead, but it's going to be close either way. Not confident enough to use one in my main lineup by any means, but they're definitely in play. But the passing game for Oregon it's not a winning move in my mind. You may get lucky and hit a little bit of positive touchdown variance on one of your receivers there, but trust me, it's very tilting to roster an Oregon receiver. It's almost as tilting as running Oklahoma guys. It really is. And then Fresno State, if they get behind, Hayner's he's going to throw the ball a lot. I'm just really worried about this Oregon defense just shutting them down. So you do have like Ty Jones 3.6, Kedrick Leafalt 4K. These are some nice prices for these guys. I'm just not sure they're going to be able to take advantage of it. Josh Kelly's down there at 3.3. Like, my God, we loved Josh Kelly last week. Still do. GPP, it might be worth still throwing him out there at damn near min price because he could catch a touchdown still. But it's just a really tough spot to trust any of the Fresno State guys here. I am going to respect the Oregon defense. So what's your play here when you have a really good team like Fresno State coming in with these really, really cheap prices, but the defense on the other side is going to make life hell for them?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they're walking into a freaking buzzsaw here or something, Fresno State. And Fresno State's good. But
yeah,
Oregon State Hayner's a good quarterback. We've seen Hayner as the understudy under some really good quarterbacks, but Oregon State's a different animal, and it's a hell of a defense. So Fresno State side, Hayner, you got to sit. Cropper, he didn't really do much last week besides that one big touchdown catch, but they're obviously going to need to use him this week. They didn't need him against UConn. So GBP 6,100. Ronnie Rivers. I love Ronnie Rivers, right? But he's probably priced correctly. At that price, at 6.7. He's gonna catch some balls out of the backfield, but at that price, he's nothing but GPP play. On the other side, Anthony Brown, GPP. And I can see people going on Brown because they think he's a dual threat guy for a team with this huge implied. But there's going to be people that are going to play him. I'm seeing projected about 13%. These are all GPP plays, but you don't know where. There's going to be points, but you don't know where they're going to come from. It's not like some of these other teams, like we just said with the Skyler, and those guys where and Deuce, we know what's going to come from. We don't know what's going to come from. But one play, I guess, is Troy Franklin is listed as a starter at 3K. So, I mean, the kid's gonna be on the field with a 64 over under. The ball's gonna be winging, so maybe Troy Franklin, the guy, may be safer than some of these other plays where, and if he doesn't catch anything, you're not losing much for 3K. So I think Troy Franklin might be a sneaky play here, but that's it. Once again, it just we're almost halfway through the slate, and it's kind of strange because I don't think there's some cut and dry plays like there were the first two slates, Thursday night and tonight, so far.
Yeah, it's a weird slate, but we're
Yeah.
about to start hitting some plays that we're gonna start taking a stand on. If you guys are watching this, you're like, well, geez, do they like anyone? We do. It's just it's hard to take a stand. Even the Franklin kid that at 3K, like, yeah, it's 3K, it's nice, but there's like you said, there's no guarantee he'll even get a catch from Brown. But it's just a lot of variance with the catches there. But we do have your boys from Miami up next against Alabama, minus 19.5, 61 over under. We like Alabama plays, definitely. Hopefully you got some Miami sneak. They can score some points. Bryce Young takes over as the QB now for Alabama. I think 8-9 is a pretty decent price. For me, I wrote it up any way you slice it. You're going to be definitely paying up for at least one premier quarterback. If you don't go Skyler, you know, two high-end quarterbacks upper tier is a good play. You know, a Bryce Young and Ritter, or Bryce Young and there's a couple other pay ups here, like Rattler or whatever, because of the value. So Bryce Young's a guy that I don't mind playing. Steps into obviously an ideal role. He's got massive weapons around him, even though Najee Harris is gone and Waddle's gone and Harris is gone. They're just a factory of talent. They just replace everybody that leaves. We did see bits of action last year in 7 different games, completed 13 passes, 156 yards, and a touchdown. So he didn't really get to showcase his rushing ability or anything, but he was a rushing guy in high school. Former 5-star recruit, highest ranked QB in the Saban era. So it's a really big deal with this kid coming in. A lot of pressure, you think, but mentally, watching some of his interviews or hearing people talk about him, he looks ready to go. Like, he's been in big games his whole life at the highest levels in high school. So, he's coming into a situation here that he should do well. And that Hurricanes defense, we know they were fantasy friendly last year for the most part. So I'm pretty excited to see what he can do. I think at 8-9, he's definitely playable. Now, this may end up being a silly play. It may end up being maybe popular play by the time we actually get to lock. I see he's drawing a tiny bit of ownership, and I know that we have Chris on our YFC team talking about him, but I am warming up to the Trey Sanders play for Alabama at 3K. They're a little deep at the running back spot this year. They don't have the Najee Harris to take, but the bulk 80-90% of the carries, so it could be a group effort. But man, Nick Saban's notoriously difficult to get compliments out of him about his players. We know that, and he's kind of gushing about the Sanders kid. Went on to, he basically said, it's one guy I'm really impressed with, and his name's Trey Sanders. He's supposed to be 100%. He was dealing with some injuries. There was a car accident he was involved in last year, so he was in that. Big-time high school player. Like I said, I felt like maybe he could end up being a sneaky play. It's only 3K. If I'm going to use a 3K guy, I usually like to do it at receiver, but I'm really kind of excited about what he's going to do. Right now, it's Robinson starting, but he's got the OR tag, as co-starter, or not co-starter, but the OR tag with Jason McClellan for that RB2 slot. So keeping an eye on Trey Sanders, he's going to get touches. And Najee Harris, that's, 20 plus carries to go around. Do we think that, it's suddenly going to be, just all Robinson now, or, maybe, but I don't know. I just feel like that he's going to, the Sanders kid he may end up taking that RB1 job because Robinson has been good and he's looked good in his minimal playing time, but he just seems like he's one of those guys who's better suited as a backup or maybe a short yardage guy or something like that. So I'm definitely looking at the Trey Sanders, bus here, and I don't know if it's going to end up being popular. And then there's another guy that's cheap on this team, and JoJo Earl, that I'm really high on too. So I might be getting too cute. I got caught getting a little too cute the other night. Don't want to have it happen again. If you guys have been in our premium college Discord, there's been talk about JoJo. Chris and I was just bringing him up. People talk about him like he's the next Jalen Waddle. Very high comparison to be, compared to him. He's a true freshman, listed on the depth chart, co-starter with Slate Bolden. Slade Bolden is good, but honestly, it wouldn't surprise me to see Earl just kind of overtake Bolden. Bolden's kind of another one of those like placeholder type guys where he gets the job done, but he's not like that super electric type of player that you would want at the Waddle role. They do have a good group of receivers. Ohio State transfer O. Jamison Williams, freshman guy Howell, and then John Mechie is out there, but Mechie's a little too high price for me. I say that when I played with Roberson tonight, but it's a little different tomorrow because it's a bigger slate. So I'm looking at the JoJo Earls. I'm looking at the Trey Sanders. Very cheap, 7K total salary. Maybe not play them both together, but I may end up playing one of those guys in my main lineup. Do you think that's maybe me getting a little too cute, or do you think the talk about those guys being the future of the program is actually true?
Well, I think Trey Sanders play is cool. I can dig that. I think it's interesting. Is it like main lineup cash play? No, but to me, but I have some interest in Sanders also. My health is it all goes back to Brian Robinson. Like if Robinson, he's a really good play at 6'9", at 6'5". If he's like the only running back. I mean, that's everybody's saying. It's everything you read. There's no or next to his name or anything like that. He is going to score. I mean, Brian Robinson, you're going to assume, is going to score, so he should be making value. But Sanders may score too. I mean, there's going to be a lot of points scored here, right? So, I like Bryce Young too. My play I really like. I have a lot of interest in is Jamison Williams at 5'2". I like Williamson a lot. He's probably my favorite play on this team, mainly because his price. But I don't think there's that much difference between him and Mechie, honestly. And I just saw a tweet from Saban. I mean, a tweet saying Williams is a guy that's really made a big impact in camp. But once again, we've seen that stuff before. Miami really has struggled against speedy receivers, and Williams is a speedy receiver. So he ran a 10.5 400 meters. So that that's saying it translates to a high 4.3, low for 440. So Williams is my favorite play here. Now we know that Billingsley is in the doghouse. I don't even think he's going to play. He's like so far down the depth chart. There's all kinds of rumors going around about the he won't take the vaccine, and they're pretty much punishing him for it. I've been hearing that. I'm seeing that in a lot of boards and stuff. So, which really who was I just saw? I can't remember who's taking Billing. It was actually starting tight end tomorrow. I just drew a blank, but it doesn't matter. But I like Jamison Williams is my favorite play on that side. Miami. At least in Miami, know who we got. I think running backs there's way too many. I mean, I like the Miami running backs, but there's way too many cooks in the kitchen. With Cameron Harris, he's been there forever. You got Donald Chaney, you got Knight in there, so I'm not messing up. I do think De'Aaron King is going to be kind of a sneaky play. I mean, we know that he's almost tempting at 7'4". Maybe it's calling me, a homer from Miami, but I don't think Bama can totally shut De'Aaron King down. I think he's too good of a quarterback. I mean, I don't think they're going to totally keep him in check. He played some really good teams last year, and he scored only 17 points a game, only one game under 20. So I think De'Aaron King is still a top quarterback on the slate. A lot of people may argue with me about it, but I think King is too good. And maybe Mike Harley. I think Mike Harley is kind of cheap, and he is underpriced. Alabama's got a good defense. Miami's gonna be playing from behind a lot, right? So, Haley should be able to get by that front seven. He had 800 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns last season. His production, he's going to pick up more. So, cheap price. I like Harley and I like King. I mean, Alabama may have lost so much NFL talent. I mean, but do they have that? Do they have the NFL talent ready like they always seem like they have every year? I'm curious to see. I don't know. I just don't know if they're going to be as good as they were last year. I'm not saying they're not going to beat Miami, but Jamison Williams is my top player.
Yeah, and people we kind of identified by like week 4 that Bama last year their defense was giving up a lot in the passing game and some in the rushing game too. They were giving up points. It's just they were so potent on offense. They were outscoring people, but they were still adequate to target against. So yeah, it's not as if you have to completely full fade against them. That's definitely not the case. Maybe that turns around this year, but that wasn't the case. And people have it in their mind that they're a lockdown unit, and we were making money targeting against them pretty much from week 4 to the rest of the year. So it'd be interesting to see because Derrick King is a stud. People aren't really talking about him this week, but the first game he gets against Duke or whatever, he's going to be everybody's going to be on Derrick King. You heard it here first type of play. So I like it that you're playing him. You're going to play him early because it's a good spot to get him at under owned first. All right, so let's go to the next game here. It's been a lot. I wear contacts and they're like my eyeballs are dried out, so you might see me blinking odd. Miami, Ohio versus Cincy, -23 for the riders, the Ritters, if you will, 50.5 over under. My man Desmond Ritter, he was a guy who paid us a lot last year, paid the bills. I'm a big Ritter guy. I put him on the cover of the article. It's expensive. He's 9.2. I was hoping people would see the 9.2 and be like, oh, I'm not paying that. People didn't pay it last year. He was always low owned. I think towards the end of the year, people finally got a clue and started playing him. But how many weeks did it? It was just the YFC crew, us and our subs playing Ritter every week, and he was just smashing. He threw for 19 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 2,300 yards. But his real value comes from his rushing ability. He is just an insane player on the ground. He has a 5 YPC as a quarterback, which you don't really see too well. Average over 5, I should say. It was actually 6. 12 rushing touchdowns, 600 rushing yards. So he's a big time play. The worry here would be a blowout, against Miami of Ohio. It stunt his upside a bit, but he's going to be the one scoring the touchdowns if they get ahead. I mean, since he's got Alec Pierce, they've got a few weapons here, but if they're going to get into a blowout, the argument is that he's going to be the one scoring the touchdowns. Now, if you go back to the game against Austin Peay last year where they just whooped him, he only rushed for 57 yards, like 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. So it wasn't a great game. If that was the stat line he put up tomorrow, that would be absolute disaster. You lose every single contest that you played him in. But if you look in blowout wins against Memphis, ECU, SMU games where they won by almost 30 plus, he put up slate melting numbers, 3 rushing touchdowns, 300 passing yards, just big time stats. But the argument be that, well, those are conference games. They played them longer. So it really just depends. This is going to be a much longer season. I think worrying about a blowout is much more, something that you need to worry about. And with a season like this last year with the COVID shortened season, you didn't have to worry about as much, but it is something that, I'm concerned about. Am I still going to be stubborn and play Desmond Ritter? Absolutely. That's just the guy that I'm going to play. I played Jaden Daniels the other night and it backfired, but those are the type of plays I make because they, sometimes they don't work, but when they work and they work at a high number of times with the leverage, I own the slate. Daniels did get hurt in the third quarter last night, so I will say that. But yeah, if he can play, if somehow Miami Ohio can keep this game within 4 touchdowns throughout, and he can get 4 quarters, he will absolutely just be the top scorer on the slate. He's going to have a monster season. But keep in mind, I'm the president, the owner, the main member of the Desmond Ritter fan club, so I may be a fanboy of his.
You are,
but I'm looking at the rest of their roster, and they've lost some at running back. They've got Jerome Forward there, maybe a little right. Alec Pierce is kind of okay priced out. I do like Josh Wild there. He's kind of a red zone touchdown machine, but really most of the time, if I'm playing anyone from Cincy, I'm just going to be running a naked Ritter and moving on. So I might need you to talk me down from using him at this price, and so I don't get Jaden Daniels. But I don't know, man. It just seems like if they're going to win, by 5 touchdowns, he's going to account for 3 or 4 of them before he sits. So what do you think about this game?
I definitely like him as a leverage play over Rattler.
Oh yeah.
I know. I do have some tempered expectations. I don't know. I mean, he did lose some, but he's 9.2. Yeah, I guess he's. Yeah, I mean, I look at the rest of these quarterbacks. I mean, there's not too many we've even talked about that you think about is better than him, right? I mean, Rattler's up there with him, of course. But how many other quarterbacks have we even mentioned now? It's true as we're going through it. So, yeah, he's probably with the top 3 on the slate. I'm really interested in Jerome Ford this year, too. After seeing what he did to Georgia last year, you know what I mean? And how good that Georgia defense is. And now, he's on his own here. There's no Gerald Dokes. So this team is, I guess, this team is strong. I mean, you got Alec Pierce, and there's gonna be some big games. These guys. Another guy I like is Michael Young at 4-3. I mean, he's going to get some plays, and all it's going to take is one big touchdown catch by Michael Young. He's made value, and you're good. So, yes, I mean, yeah, I like Ritter. I mean, probably is better. He probably is a better spot than King. So, and the other side, there's no way that Miami. I mean, this Cincinnati is what a shutdown defense the Cincinnati team is, right? I mean,
Oh yeah,
I mean,
they put
I think
Dylan
Sauce Gardner
Gabriel
is
on his back.
the best corner in the country. I mean, you got a guy like Gardner. So, I mean,
Yep.
there is no. I'm not playing. I'm not even telling anybody. I think it may be more than a 23-point favorite here. So yeah, I do like Ritter. I mean, you kind of turning me around to him too. Look at it, there's not too many other quarterbacks that even like him. Good point.
Yeah, and I mean, and you just look at that the initial ownership projections. I mean, it's the quarterbacks around him, Anthony Brown and Cade McNamara. So I mean, and I don't have any interest in those guys. You don't either. And if people are going to go and play Anthony Brown, Cade McNamara, then
Yeah, they will.
then I feel even better about the Ritter play. I would rather play King than any of McNamara Brown combinations. And because King, I mean, is cheaper, like you said, and he's going to be in a we hope somewhat competitive game at least for the first half. Miami has the offense to stay in it. It's just a matter of if they have the defense to get a shutdown, a shutdown and drive once in a while. So yeah, I don't mind the King play, but I'm just going to have the salary, and I don't want to go up to 10K for Rattler. And if people are I mean, Rattler is the highest projected ownership. What's the difference? I guess is what I would say. What's the difference between playing Rattler and Ritter besides saving $600-700? They're both going to be in blowouts. So why are people so confident in playing Rattler, but they're not so confident playing Ritter? This is reminding me a little bit of last year with Aeneas and Spiller. And I came to you and I said, why is no one on Isaiah Spiller even though he's the RB1? And you're like, I don't know. Why don't we play him? And we did, and he was 4%, and he went ham. I'm not saying that's going to happen necessarily tomorrow, but this is kind of feeling a lot like that scenario. Like people aren't really on Ritter, but they're on Rattler, and I'm having trouble understanding what the difference is. Besides Ritter is a much better runner, so I don't know. I guess it just depends if you think Tulane can keep it close or Miami of Ohio can keep it close. But the Cincinnati defense is the truth. There's no debating that. So maybe that's the difference. Oklahoma's defense not as good, but yeah, that's you're gonna have to make that decision, I think, up top. And I think we both agree. We both like Bryce Young. Like I'm almost considering running Young and Ritter together if I don't run Thompson. Like there's the value to do it and play some expensive running backs. So I'm playing with a couple different builds right now. Let's move on to the next game and see what else emerges here. Marshall versus Navy. Got -2.5 for Marshall. 47.5 over under. Marshall versus Navy. Man, I almost would have been fine with them not putting this game on there. Marshall, a team that really frustrated us last year. We were playing them. I think it was late week 1 then too, and we thought they were going to run the ball a lot. And Grant Wells came out and threw 4 touchdowns. The new QB, so now we know what to expect from him. But playing Navy, we know they're going to ball control it and run a lot. There's going to be some weapons from these teams throughout the season that we're going to be talking about, but I don't know that they weren't talking about right now. But who are some of the guys that at least interest you, I suppose, from this game, or just in general from the team?
We know. I mean, I tell you one thing. This is a betting game. I like that 2.5 spread. So
yeah,
if I'm betting, I'm taking it 2.5. Marshall beats up weak teams, and
yeah.
I mean, there's nobody here. I think that's really in play. I mean, like Grant Wells is okay. I mean, he's under 7K. He's 6'8", but I think and you can trust him. I mean, we know we're going to get with him. But the problem is, Navy's going to eat the clock. That's why that 6'8" price is built in there. You only get so many possessions. There's no slate breaking receivers here. Any of these guys. So there's no, there's no Brendan. No one wanted to play him. As I'm interested. I mean, there's no Brendan Knox. So, I mean, is Sheldon Evans in play at 4.7?
That's the play. That's what I'm looking at. He's a co-starter, but yeah, 4.7.
Yeah, there's an right with Ali. and I don't even mind
Yeah.
Ali either. But Evans is the one play probably I would look maybe toward in cash. Not even sure if I am. To me, it's just probably more of a stay away game because Navy. But if anybody, I think it is probably is Sheldon Evans because Evans is talented, and I don't like that or designation, but there's just nothing going to those games. It's going to be a drawn out game, you know what I mean? And that's why Wells is so cheap because Navy's just going to be, how many times are you going to get the ball, you know? They're going to be in that clock.
That's what I was gonna say. Navy's gonna just try to run the clock out and take
Mm-hmm.
their time and keep Marshall's offense off the field. So it's really kind of tough to target anyone in that
Yeah, this
game.
shouldn't even be on a
Definitely.
slate.
That's what I'm thinking. The first Marshall game was a disaster because, like I said, we were all on the runners last year, and then Wells came into it his first game and threw 4 touchdowns. They were up by 30, still throwing. So let's move on from that painful memory. Indiana versus Iowa. We have -4 Iowa, 46 over under. You guys thought I was gushing about Desmond Ritter. Then why don't you just sit back in your chair and let me talk to you about my other guy, Michael Penix Jr., who says he's fully healthy. Penix, we had a lot of bill payers that people weren't on. He was a guy that was low owned all the time. And you look at that game against Ohio State, my Lord, that game against Ohio State and the showdown in Slate specifically, we made some good money because he threw for almost 500 yards on them, 40 fantasy points. Man, that was it. That was a very fond memory of mine. I was excited for him, and then the next game comes out and gets injured. Very, very shitty because I think I played him again right after that. But you look at the game before the 40, consistently churning out 20 plus fantasy points on DK. He's only 7K. The question is, how rusty is he? You
Right.
know, that type of injury is tough. Iowa, at least has an adequate defense. But I definitely, Penix is a guy I have. I am usually a one lineup or two lineup guy, but I'm specifically running multiples tomorrow so that I can have a ton of him in tournaments because I am not going to be too reckless in playing in my cash lineup, although I want to very badly. I have an addiction to leverage plays. My name's Walter. And so I want to play him. I want to play him with Ritter, but I know I'm going to just have to play him in GPPs. They do add USC transfer at running back Stephen Carr, so that's going to help. They got Ty Freifogel back. Freifogel Penix combo and GPP is going to be big. I was really quite high on Miles Marshall last year as the kind of the heir apparent. Now that Walt Phillier's gone, Marshall steps into that second, WR2 role. It's very cheap. He's got, game breaking speed. He can, stretch the field. They've got Peyton Huntershot at tight end. So he has the weapons for this Indiana team to be very, very good again. And I think that Penix, and when I say very good, I mean for DFS purposes, whether they win games or not, it's pretty irrelevant to me in the end of the day. But he's going to be able to put up some big stats, and he won't be 7K for very long. So it's just a matter of how healthy is he really for this. On the Iowa side, Petrus at QB still laughable. He's very bad. They have good running back. Tyler Goodson is back. We know Goodson. He's a stud. Very big workhorse. He can do some damage for us. And then Tracy last year did pretty well at times. And Laporta was a guy who was a value play. As we get into the rest of the year, value becomes harder to find. Sam Laporta was a guy that we could use from time to time, but there's a lot of value on this first slate. So I probably am not going to be going into the Iowa guys too much, but there is some GPP shares of Indiana that I find myself with in my initial lineup. So Freifogel's back. He's going to have a monstrous year with Phoenix, as long as they stay healthy, of course. So what's your assessment of another Big Ten game here on the slate?
Yeah, I mean, and I know we're going to be talking about Penix a lot this year. I mean, Iowa does scare me, and this 46 is definitely a red flag to me. Definitely a red flag. So, Iowa's got tough defense. So I just hate, and I think you're right, though. I think you got to get Penix in something because he's a gunslinger, and we know. I mean, it's not just one season; he's put together now two big seasons. It's never about his accuracy. It's about he's got balls, and he's not afraid. He's not afraid to throw, and he's going to throw into tight windows and stuff. So, I think he's definitely a GPP play tomorrow. I wouldn't, to me personally, I wouldn't consider him a cash game. I also want to see him play once, just to see, how his health is. And he's going to be a little rusty. Freifogel, GBP. I think he just needs a couple bombs, and they could actually win a GBP for you. So there's no more Filer. So Freifogel is the guy, and no Stevie Scott. So we'll be talking about Indiana a lot. I just think this week is more of a anything but GBP play, but I just have too much respect for Iowa's defense and I have too much respect for that 46 over under.
Yeah, I mean that's the smart move. And so far, these first, the week 0 slate and the first couple slates of this week for week 1 has been eat the chalk and move on, and that has you're gonna have to keep doing that for a while. So for cash games, you gotta be smarter. As time goes on, our leverage plays are gonna start winning out. So we're just kind of finding our footing here. But yeah, the smart move would be to take Indy. I think Trifogle you could run in cash. Don't get me wrong, but if I'm taking a stand and going cheap wide receiver in my main lineup, I'm going cheap, then for sure. But Phoenix is going to be a moneymaker this year, definitely. Just hopefully he shakes that rust off very quick. All right, next game here, West Virginia versus Maryland. We have -2.5, 57 over under. I can't say I'm surprised to see Letty Brown kind of popping up there, like third or fourth highest. Vaughn we're high on. He's up there. There's 2 other guys that I'm high on that I wrote up. Letty I didn't really write up, but it goes without saying that he's usually always in play. He's a little higher price than I want to pay to start on the road there, but he's going to get the work. He's going to get a lot of carries. His backup's gone, so Letty's definitely in play. But if I see him so highly owned there by the field, I kind of feel like maybe I'm okay with the 3 that I'm really on. I do like on the other side for Maryland, the receivers today, although Dante Demas, who is my favorite play for them, is 7-1 though. So the pricing's all out of whack, as you can imagine. He really came on strong towards, last year. They only played like 4 or 5 games, but there was the last 2 or 3, scored 20 plus fantasy points in 3 of his last 4. He is a guy that I think could win, be on an optimal GPP winning lineup. He was targeted a astounding 45 times in only 5 games. So we're probably looking at a guy who's going to be, 100 plus targets, pretty easy, take that to the bank. But I don't have a ton of interest. This West Virginia squad is another one that they're a little frustrating at times at the wide receiver position. Sam James just 2 years ago, we was like, this is the guy we're going to be using in DFS for the next 3 years. And then he totally fell off last year, and it was Wheaton and Wright, and they kind of, cycled through to the point where it's hard to peg them. So, and, at quarterback, they don't necessarily have the most consistent quarterback play. We have used Doege before at cheap, and he's paid off, but you see he's got several single-digit performances under his belt as well. So the West Virginia team outside of Letty is very nerve-wracking. The good thing about Maryland, their defense really had a hard time stopping anyone last year. Them in Minnesota, but neither one of them could really stop anyone. So there is going to be plays from the West Virginia side that end up paying off. But anyone that says, oh, I told you it was going to be this guy, it's just full of shit. So, we're going to be honest with you guys about that. But I do like Demas a lot. I like Raheem Jarrett quite a bit. Jashawn Jones has upside there at the 3.9 price. So I kind of like this Maryland offense, long term. Not necessarily tomorrow, but I do think this is the team we'll be targeting, quite a bit this season. So what's the word on this one?
I'm all about Letty though. I do like, and we'll get into Hall in a second. But I think to me,
that's what I'm going with. Yeah,
it comes down to Hall and Letty, and right now I just personally think Letty's got a safer route to 25 fantasy points, something like that, than Hall because of the blowout factor on the other end. But you think about it, this is a really tight spread. They're only a 3-point favorite over Maryland with 57 over under. So Letty, I mean, I feel like Letty's been around forever, but he can be frustrating. There's been plenty of times he's frustrated us, but I think he's safe. I think he should make value on his price tag. He gets the value. Plus, he's in the passing game. He's like my main play out of this game, of course. He is the focal point of the offense. So I have a little bit of interest in Bryce Ford Wheaton just because of the price at $4K. He was a second leading receiver last year on the team. So they don't pass much. Sam James isn't bad, but this is more of a GPP game. Beside Letty, this is more of a GPP game because there is some interest, some of these Maryland guys, and we've seen what some of these guys can do. We like little Tua. We've seen what Raheem Jarrett can do. And the same thing with Demas. These are all GBP plays though. Play a little Tua with a Demas or Jarrett or both of them and see what happens. But West Virginia has sneaky good defense last year also. But Letty Brown, to me, right now, I have him kind of as a 1A over 1B Hall because of the pull factor. Then we'll get into a second, though. I'm not sure if they get, I think they're pushing Bryce Hall for the Heisman. So you may not see them pulling him too early in the game, anyways. So he's probably going to get there at this point. So that may be my decision on day tomorrow. Is Letty or Bryce? Probably is, actually.
Yeah. All right, next game, Mississippi State versus Louisiana Tech. We have -23 for Mississippi State, 52.5. There's a lot to like here for Mississippi State. Not with the quarterback, as they have an OR tag. Not really with the running back, who they do have good, Joe Marks and Dylan Johnson. They both have an OR. They're both, in a Mike Leach offense. Whoever does take the running back spot will get a lot of targets. The PPR gods in that offense. So one of those guys will end up being in play. But you hate, going into it with the OR tag. And we've seen guys at the top of the depth charts at running back, not even get the first carries we saw with Illinois last week. So it's the receivers that I'm really looking at. And Mike Leach, air raid offense, looking at receivers. Wow, cutting edge stuff. I know, guys, right? And they're cheap. They're really cheap. I guess the biggest thing is, Jaden Wally is not that cheap, but he's also listed as a co-starter with Austin Williams. So where you would think Wally's a lock and load, for me, he's not. I like him still for GBPs, but I would like him a lot more if he was a straight up starter. Malik Heath getting the start at the X spot, Jareem Calvin at the H, Makai Polk, who's a former Cal transfer at Z spot. Calvin and Polk are the two I like the best. Looking at ownership now, I always write my stuff before I look at that stuff because I don't like to be swayed. Looking at it now, it looks like I'm on track with the rest of the field and liking Jameer Calvin the most. Very simple for me. He's a transfer from WSU. He's played under this air raid offense. He's got a rapport with Mike Leach. So Leach takes care of his guys. That's one thing about Mr. Mike Leach. He takes care of his guys. So I would imagine Calvin's going to get fed a lot and get a lot of opportunities and even to an extent Polk. So I really like them. Polk's only 3.9, Williams 4.2, Malik Keith's 4K. He's in play. Calvin's only 4.8. I'd like to see maybe a little cheaper, but 4.8. I'm plugging in Calvin as one of my cheapy wide receivers, and I have one other guy that's right around 5K. That's an absolute lock, and I see the industry's on him as well. So I'm reading this slate the same as a lot of other people, which I guess is a good thing with the way that the slates have played out the last week and a half. But I always hate that. But I'm on Calvin and to a lesser extent Polk. So I think for GBP, if you're playing multiple lineups, what you do here is you just rotate these guys in and out of your lineup.
Yeah.
I think you play Calvin in your main, and then you go in your alts and you put Williams in one. Then you go to your other alt, you put Heath in one. Then you go put Polk in one. Then you get Wally in one. That way, when these touchdowns happen and you pair a couple of them here or there, if you're doing the 20 plus, you'll be hitting everything that happens. You'll be hitting a piece of, and you'll feel good. Whereas if you're just playing the one lineup, you miss and you get a little upset. So if you're an MMEer, definitely rotate through these weapons. And then also get some Dylan Johnson, Joe Marks if you're running like 10 plus. If you're not, then I would just stay away from it. And the quarterbacks, if we like the receivers so much, then Will Rogers or Chance Lovertich, one of these guys is going to step up. But I almost am a little nervous that they might both play. It's usually not Leach's MO, but I don't know. I just have a weird feeling on this. So I'm staying away from everything except the receivers. And then for Louisiana Tech, we've used them in the past. Smoke Harris was a DFS favorite last year at times, but the slate's too big really to speculate on their team right now. So I'm going to leave them on the sidelines for now. How are you reading this Mississippi State team? Typically, Leach is a very good target for and against for DFS purposes. So it sounds like you may be on Calvin as well, maybe for the same reasons. Who else is sticking out?
And it's typical Mike Leach because we don't know we don't know. It's hard to know who's gonna pop off here. So play them all in GPPs and hope one of them. So I do agree with you on the Washington State transfer that actually came under Leach, right? Calvin. It's Calvin, right? Yeah. That was a Washington State guy.
Mm-hmm.
I like Calvin and Heath is the other guy I think I had my note on. I'm Malik Heath. They're two guys I've been sure. I right now I don't think you can't touch Jaden Wally with that price. And everything I'm reading is he's not the guy in the slot. What I'm reading right now is Austin Williams. So that might not even be true, but I'm not spending 6, 9, or 7K in Wally and come to find out it is true. You know what I mean? Especially in game 1 of the season. So it's a tough one. You know points are going to come from somewhere, and it's a matter of that's why GDP. We don't know until it pops off. And I do, you know who I kind of don't mind either is for GBPs is the running back from Louisiana Tech, Marcus Williams. He's Appalachian State transfer. He beat out Keon Henry Brooks for the gig. So I could see him having a decent game again against Mississippi State. So but also GBP only. But he's a cheap one. He's a cheap one if you want. I think at 4-1 he could do some damage for somebody. So that's the only guy looking at for Louisiana Tech. And I guess not because I do have some. This kid, this Kendall kid too, the West Virginia transfer. I think he's only 5'1", so that's a value that may be able to get you guys like Breece Halls and stuff. As your second quarterback. Like you said, Mississippi State is not exactly the greatest defense in the world, so he may turn out at the end of the day to be a top value here. This Austin Kendall at 5'1". Think about it.
Yeah. I'm a little surprised Henry Brooks didn't get the RB1 job, but I think it might be because he kind of came over late. I wonder. You can't play him now because he's 5'3", but I wonder if he'll end up kind of seizing that job back, or they'll have a time split. Because I like Henry Brooks. We used them a couple of times last year on Vandy, and he paid off. So that is a running back situation worth looking at. And we know Williams can produce because he was in the four-headed monster of Appy State last year. So we know he can produce even if he has to split. But yeah, Mississippi State wide receivers all day. All right, now let's go into the game. We want to talk about Breece Hall, Iowa State here versus Northern Iowa. It's minus 29.5, over under a 52. Now, I can't say I'm surprised to hear you say an industry kind of lean towards Letty, and that's cool. But there's it looks like they're pretty close in ownership. Obviously, you're getting a discount with Letty, so that's important. I'm on Breece Hall. I love Breece Hall. I don't need to sit here. If you guys have played before, he's a monster. 9K. They didn't give us any breaks in his price like we were hoping, but he's a bell cow, true bell cow every sense of the word. 1,500 yards, 21 touchdowns a season to go. Scored 30 plus fantasy points in 8 of 12 games. That's the biggest number that really stuck out. The UNI DF, and then one thing, the defensive linemen for Northern Iowa are actually pretty nasty. Their level competition. They're actually a pretty good defense. Going up against Iowa State, I wouldn't expect them to shut down, Hall down or anything like that. But they are good enough to hopefully keep it close, relatively, speaking, for the first half at least. But I think what's going to happen is they're going to keep wearing them down, keep punching them in the throat, and then finally Hall's going to break through for a big score. And yeah, you would hope, because at 9K you're going to need 125 minimum yards and 2 touchdowns. We didn't play Mo Ibrahim the other night. I ended up getting hurt, which is very sad. But he, even against Ohio State, he was well on his way to 3 touchdowns. He had 2 touchdowns in 150 or 140, 143, something crazy. He was probably going to have 203. So just guys like that, they're just, they, regardless of game script, opponent, those type of players like a Breece Hall, I think they just get there. One way or another, they're going to get there. So you do have me questioning myself on Breece Hall, not to the point where I'm not going to play him, but yeah, I think you're right. And it makes sense to take the cheaper route with Letty Brown if Hall's going to get, shut down after the third quarter, or if the game gets out of hand. You just hope that Hall's going to be the guy that they feed over and over and over and over again, because like you said, they are pushing that Heisman, and you don't want to risk injury in a meaningless game once it's out of hand, but they do want to get him his stats. And you saw Sam Howell, who was a Heisman, potential guy, fall on his face today. So if they can clear the road for Breece Hall to get the Heisman, I think they will.
Yeah,
if you're going to fade Breece Hall, I think you want to get a lineup together with Brock Purdy and maybe our guy Charlie Kohler, because Purdy's only 7'9". He's kind of that lunch pail guy. He's always putting up 20 plus fantasy points. He's never breaking the slate with 30 plus, but you look at it, you check Purdy's stats, you see, 21 again, 24, 22 and a half. Like, he's always going to get you that number. 20 plus DK points in 9 of 12 games last year. He threw for over 2,700 yards, 19 touchdowns. He rushed for 5 on the ground. So I think if you want to go that route, he's going to dink and dunk his way up and down the field against this team. He should, at least. And you can pair him up with, tight end, touchdown supreme, Charlie Kohler, who he was one of our secret weapons early on. People got hip to it. He's a little higher price than I'd want to be. We were only paying him like 4.1, 4.5, 4.7 for him last year. So 5.5 is a little expensive, but he is super reliable. He was targeted 66 times, caught 7 touchdowns. His touchdown equity in the red zone is very, very, very high every time they get there. It's usually Kohler or it's Hall once they get in that range, and then obviously Purdy if he's close enough to get a rushing score. So you can usually count on the touchdown from him and maybe make a little cyclone stack between Purdy and Kohler if you do plan on fading Hall. So that's going to be the decision, like you said, if you need to save that 1K there. Now, if you go cheap enough at wide receiver, which I think you can, and you play Skyler, I think you can easily fit him. So there's 2 builds here you can really go. So I guess it's going to come down to personal preference. And you make a really good case for Letty Brown. I think, Brees Hall, there's a really good case to be made for him to play, use him in your main as well. I don't think there's necessarily a wrong answer. And at the end of the day, they may end up being close enough together that maybe it doesn't matter. And if that's the case, then yeah, Letty would be the play because of the savings you get. So
Yep.
what do you think here about, the other weapons as well? Hutchinson, just in terms of, or any UNA guys, like, how do you think it's going to play out?
Oh, and that is a big difference. Is $1,000, I think, because the ownership's going to be about the same between Hall and Letty, but I think Hall's still going to get there, especially if they're pushing for their Heisman. So, I like the call you're saying. If you don't play Hall, maybe get a Purdy in there. But Brock Purdy 7'9" is not a bad quarterback. He's okay. He can run. We've seen him. He'll call his own number. He'll run one in. So I don't mind that. I would definitely hook him up with Charlie Kohler. I'm a big Kohler guy too, 5'5". So then these other guys, I mean, I don't mind Xavier Hutchinson, but I think 6'3" is so expensive. If not, I'll go down to a guy like Tariq Milton for 4.1. That's not a bad price for Tariq Milton. And maybe Tariq Milton's talented, and he could possibly, if you're scared of these Mississippi State guys, all on the same price range, maybe run a guy like Tariq Milton. So don't mind that price. I said Charlie Kohler could definitely get you 2 touchdowns every day. I mean, if he wanted to, they tried. So that's on the other end. I have said there's nobody we're going to even talk about on the other side. It's all about Iowa State and blowout. And the only concern is how far the guys like Hall going to go. So Hall, and if you don't play Hall, you hit a random button. Then you play a little bit of Purdy with some Kohler and maybe a Milton.
All right. And then last game on the slate, Texas versus Lafayette. -8 for Texas, 58. Every year people are saying, mainly the Texas guys, Texas is back. The Longhorns are back. Basketball, it seems like they might be back. Football, same thing. Looking at the first play, and he's an obvious play, so it's not secret. I look, and then after I read up the article, I look to see, what other people are saying, and everybody is going to be on Bijan Robinson, and Bijan he's a stud, 7'4". He's really a 9K guy masquerading as a 7'4" guy to start here. There's a ton of hype surrounding him. He's going to be a big time player. He ended the season with 40+ fantasy points back-to-back games last year. Healthy 8.2 YPC. You guys know YPC. I'm always, if I see anything over 5, I'm all about it. 703 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's pretty active in the passing game, had 15 catches. So, Sarkisian, we're familiar with him up in Washington. He coached us for a little bit. He's a good offensive mind. So, and Sark did say they're going to give him 20+ touches a game. So there's no question about that. His workload's going to be big. Lafayette did allow 100+ rushing yards to at least one player in 8 different games last year as well. I had to double check and see what because their defense has a tendency, not to the level of Alabama or anything, but people tend to think that Lafayette's defense is better than it is, and they did give up a lot to running backs last year. Not necessarily total overall, but they gave up 100+ yards to guys in a lot of games. So give me all the beat Bijan here. Everybody's going to play him. Robinson is the stud. He's the guy. Now, see, here's going to be the question, because for me, it's Vaughn and Robinson, lock, load. Those are the 2 chalk plays. And then, Hall. But you make a good case for Letty Brown. It's a week to play 3 running backs. I think we both agree there. So it really depends on your build. You got a 7'4" guy, a 6'3" guy, and then you either got that 8K guy to round him out, or you go up to Hall and take 9K. And that depends on if you're going to play a receiver at 7K, you're going to play Skylar Thompson at 6'6", or go with 2 expensive quarterbacks. So we're giving you a couple different routes that you can go here. And I think all two, three of those routes are viable. It's just going to come down to personal preference for you. We can lead you to that water, but you're going to have to drink it, right? So for me, I'm high on him, and then Whittington, Jordan Whittington. I was hoping
Yeah.
everybody else was going to be looking at Josh Moore or Xavier Worthy or something like that, but I guess I'm eating the chalk on him too. He's a big time favorite player of mine in the slate at only 5K. I think he's going to make a really big leap. He had 70 yards. So what is it? What did I write down here? So last two games of the season, 70 yards after the catch, a rushing touchdown, and a combined 105 yards from scrimmage on only 8 touches in the last two games. So he was putting up over 13 yards per play there in those last two games. He's going to be putting up some massive points, and I think it starts right away tomorrow. I got him pegged for a big day. Give him a touchdown, 100 plus yards. He's going to be putting a lot of points on the board, and I'm excited for him. So the rest of the industry seems to feel that way as well. I'm okay with it because he's cheap enough, and the build I want is cheap receivers. So give me Mr. Whittington. I'm going to be on him for sure. Who else? It sounds like you're on him as well. Robinson, Whittington, there's a chalk plays, whatever. Is there anyone else in the game that we can maybe look at for some leverage? I guess maybe Josh Moore does become the leverage play, and anybody on the ULL side, because they still have, he's the forgotten guy. I think Chris Smith as the RB3. They got LeBlanc out there. Kyron Lacey made some moves. They got some guys. Levi Lewis. There's some moves. And Texas's defense, their secondary, especially the last 2 seasons, has been very fantasy friendly. We could stack against their secondary with confidence the last couple of years. So there could be some points scored on both sides here. The spread's pretty close as well. So what's the move here? It's a later game. We can mini stack it. Feeling pretty good about it, right?
Yeah, to me, Robinson's the play of the day. I think. I mean, this is his team. They're gonna ride him. I think. If anything, I'm not into. I'm seeing some crazy high projections on Hudson Card. So to me, Card's not even in play, especially when I'm seeing that Casey Thompson's going to get some snaps too. So Robinson is my favorite play, and we saw what he did last year against Big 12. Already against Big 12 competition, huge games last year, and that's already with a year under his belt. So he had 10 for 183, 9 for 172, 12 for 113. I mean, he's going to get fed, especially when you got a freshman quarterback here. To me, it's Robinson's the play, and he's going to be high owned, but whatever. Circassian is known for featuring running backs, and I totally like your Whittington call. Whittington's probably on my main lineup at 5K. He's going to get value in that slot, So the thing is, though, Louisiana Lafayette is not a bad team. They're a solid. I mean, they're a solid road dog here. They bring back, I think, 10 stars from the defense. So this is a new look Texas team. So don't sleep on Louisiana Lafayette. So I see this defense here. There's nobody I'm interested in in the offense, but definitely they might give Texas a little bit of a surprise here. So, but Robinson's the play is my top play. To me, it comes down to who am I going to play between Deuce, Letty, and Hall, or am I going to play all three of them? That's what I want to do. I still got a decision over one's going to be an odd man out. Is it going to be probably Hall or Letty Brown? One of them's going to be an odd man out on me.
And then if the defensive UL can keep up, and then defensive Texas is still bad. That's what I was mentioning. Like Kyron Lacey at 4-4 is kind of interesting. We know LeBlanc can go deep. They're not safe options, but there's some GPP stacks here. We had some mini game stacks of Texas games last year that were atop the leaderboards in GPP. So I could definitely see that happening. I think the slate comes down to which 3 RBs out of that core 4 group that we just mentioned do you take, and that's likely to determine the slate at large. Let's get prize picks pulled up here. My core is going to be a little different. I mean, right now I have it as Ritter, Hall, and Robinson. I'm probably going to put Whittington there because I like to usually do a quarterback, running back, wide receiver for everyone. Right now, Whittington is my top wide receiver on the slate. I'm probably going to end up playing Hall. I'm not the one that usually pays up for guys. So like with Roberson tonight on Wake, I felt like I had to pay for him. I just sometimes I get that feeling about a pay up guy where I gotta get him. So that's where I'm at with Hall, but Robinson and Ritter as well. Do you have a core in mind, 2 or 3 guys?
Well, I mean, definitely it's definitely Deuce and Bijan Robinson. And then it's gonna be it's between Letty and Hall. And then I hate to say it, I'm probably on Whittington too as the other play. Just said when there's no and I'm probably getting what happened my whole lineup though, but also I also want to throw in Jameson Williams. I love that price on Jameson Williams at 5.2. Maybe I'm just overdoing it here, but I like Jameson. I like that 5.2 price. I like him. Let anybody else play the Jaden Whaley's and stuff, and give me some Williams.
Yeah. All right. So prize picks. I have a couple here listed. We had a very good prize picks day yesterday. I just want to note that the ones we had for today, they moved overnight. So we did the show. We gave you a couple that we really, really liked, and they went up big, like 10 plus yards on some of the guys. So the ones we give you now, there's a very good chance that by tomorrow you wake up or by midday, if they haven't been in yet, you're going to miss out. So you want to get the best number possible. Deuce Vaughn, I have over 18.5 fantasy points. You could probably hit his over on catches, which I believe is 2.5. His rushing touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot you can hit on him, but the main one I'm looking at is his over 18.5 fantasy points. I think he clearly passes 10, 20 fantasy points. Jordan Addison from Pittsburgh, not on the slate there, but he is on this prize picks. I have him over 74.5 receiving yards. He's going to be their WR1. Very sure-handed guy. We were on him a lot last year. No secret on him. He's going to be good. I have Desmond Ritter over 56.5 rushing yards. I was very pleased they put his rushing yards there. I think Ritter has 70 plus rushing yards, if not more. I don't want to steal them all. So that's 3 right there. Those are 3 main ones. I have one more. Who are you looking at here?
Jerome Ford over 87.5. And so I have really. I mean, I'm still looking through it, but let me see what we got for receiving yards.
Oh, I practiced his name when he started last year for Lawrence and won, and then I fell out. But DJ Uiagalelei, I think I nailed that there. His fantasy point total is 23.5. So I like the over on him. I know that that's not on the slate there initially there tomorrow, but it is on prize picks. So that could change before his game plays out. So I wanted to give you guys a few here to get in early. There's even one later in the night that I think might change, but I like that one there for DJ over 23.5. And then there was a rushing, let me get this real quick, rushing touchdown for Greg Bell. So later at the very late slate, there's a 4-gamer, San Diego State. Greg Bell's everything for them. He's going to rush. His rushing touchdowns is 1. I wish it was 0.5. That's a lot of guys that were 0.5 have begun going up. I still like the over on 1 for him. I like him for 2+ touchdowns against New Mexico State. So those are the ones I wanted to give you guys. They're later, some of them, but as I mentioned, the numbers are changing so fast. If you don't want a bad number, you got to hit them now.
Yeah, it's a good point because we saw what happened Thursday night. So I still got to I got to take a good look at this though. So we'll have some out tomorrow. But
yeah, there's a lot. So
there's a lot.
It was like even the one what I have last night, just for example. So like we had Ty Chandler, didn't work out, but he was 0.5 touchdowns last night, and then he moved to 1.5 today. Obviously, North Carolina fell on their face, but that 0.5 touchdown was still the right play either way. Mateo Durant was over. What is it?
I think the Derek King over 20.5.
Yeah, I like that. For sure. So I think that's it. Let's see. I don't think there's any questions we answered. There was a couple people talking earlier. Eyes on the JoJo Earl play. So yeah, that's it. 13 game slate. There is showdowns next week. There should be a Friday slate next week, so you can expect Pete and I to be back for Thursday night. We'll be covering one of either the Friday or Saturday slate. I think we can work it out to where we do Wednesday, Thursday. We are going to start doing a soccer show on Friday nights. So be ready for that. I will be back tomorrow morning, bright and early, as I mentioned, 7 a.m. my time, 10 a.m. for you East Coasters to break down, any injury news like we do the pre-log show. So be back with your coffee for that. Pete's going to have some there's a game on Sunday, so he'll have some showdown content, MLB content, of course. Pete, any final words before we head out? It's late for you, I know, and you got lots of lineups to prepare for.
No, and a lot of slates. I still got slates to write up here. So at least 3 slates tomorrow. A lot going on. It's good luck, everybody. Don't overplay it. Don't bring your bankroll out in week 1, especially if you ran up, had a tough run on last night or tonight. So it's good luck, everybody. We'll get there.
All right. Yep. Appreciate it. We'll also be doing some live Discord shows tomorrow for some of the later slates. So best of luck. Make sure you guys are in that premium Discord tomorrow. Getting any last minute news, sport plays, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
All right. Peace.